Hey guys, what's going on? My name is Antonio and welcome to my tech channel. In this video, I am going to show you how to install Docker on a virtual machine in a data center without breaking the networking of the virtual machine, like I have. I learned the hard way, so I want to share this with you guys. So with that out of the way, let's get cracking. In this diagram, I'll be explaining the scenario. This is the IP address I will be using to connect to this IP address, which is the virtual machine. In a normal environment, you'll have a VPN tunnel going to the data center and then SSHing to this machine. Mind my Picasso drawing. And the plan here is really to install Docker. Once we install Docker, then we can run containers. Here I've prepared a Ubuntu machine. And the IP address is, as I told you earlier, is 172.168.194.14. And I'm running a Ubuntu 22.04. That's the LTS version. What I wanted to show you is how I explained it from the network diagram, SSHing to the virtual machine, which is 172.168.194.14. So 172.168.194.14 again is the ANS 18, which is the physical interface. Well, technically speaking, is the virtual interface. And I also want to show you the routes. So there are two routes. One is the default route, and the other one is 172.168.194.0, which is the local interface, the local network. The way the traffic is being routed is basically when I SSH to this virtual machine, I'm SSHing to 172.168.194.0. I'm coming from a different network, so the OS is routing me through the gateway, which is 172.168.194.1. At this point in time, my virtual machine doesn't need to have a specific route to reach my computer because it's using the default route. Okay, let's break things. I'm going to run a sudo apt update. And then run the installation of the Docker. The two packages, they're going to be installed, the Docker and Docker Compose. This is installing, and this is the point, the critical point where I want to demonstrate the machine getting broken, and I'll explain to you why is this. Okay, so I can't reach the machine anymore. I go back to my Proxmox, my console, and I'm going to console to it. I'm back on the machine using console, so it's basically from the Proxmox. And if I do a ifconfig, I can now see that there's a new interface called Docker 0 with 172.17.0.1 with a mask of /16. what's happening here is when Docker is being installed, it takes the class my network is on. So this is a class B network, and it assigns that class B network to the Docker interface or the Docker configuration. If I do route again, it's gonna show another route now. So before we only had the default route. And now we have a new route, which is the 172.17.0 route. I am coming from a 172.17.182.164 or 146. So this is my IP address. So for all the network gurus, I think you probably figured it out already. In order for me to reach this network, my network 172.17.182, before it was sending it to the default gateway because it didn't know about my network. Now my network falls under the 172.17 network, which it thinks that it's belonging in the Docker interface, the new Docker interface that has been created by Docker. I'm going to show you how to install Docker with a different technique and help you not to break your virtual machine while installing Docker. If you have a different method, how you install Docker yourself, please share it in the comments below. I'm going to destroy the virtual machine and I'm going to recreate it, and I'm going to show you, like I said, the right way. I'm going to fast forward the process so you don't have to wait until the virtual machine is created. So let's check the network interfaces. It's the same IP address and it's the same two routes that we had originally before we started installing Docker. Let's now SSH to the machine. The first thing I want to do is I want to add a static route to the network interfaces. Now there are two ways you can do this. You can do this by adding a static route which is temporary, or we can add it as a permanent. In this case I want to add it as a permanent. Let's not forget to put sudo. At the bottom I want to put a new route. The network my machine is on, and I want to send it the traffic to 172.18.194.1, which is the gateway. Need to make sure that the indentation is correct. Now we need to apply the settings. And if the settings are correct, we should have the new route in, which is not. And it looks like we forgot the colon here. Now when I do a route, there is a new extra route in there, which is basically the new one that we've put in. The next tip I want to give you is, when installing something, it's very good practice to install it using screen, which basically you can detach from it and then come back to it later. So if your SSH session breaks or something similar, you don't have to fix the OS or fix the packages again. The same thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna install docker.io and docker compose, hit -y so I don't have to agree to any questions. And last time, if you remember, Docker or the installation has finished at 93%. However, this time we don't have a broken SSH session, so if I do if config, we now have the same class B network assigned to Docker 0, and we have also the same IP address of the interface. This is the loopback, and in the route table as the same routes. However, we added now, or Docker added a new subnet or a new route for the subnet 172.17.0.0. The next thing I want to do is I want to modify the configuration for Docker. I don't want it to use 172.17.0.1, but I want it to use a different network. Every time I create a Docker with this configuration, it's going to take an IP address from this network, which I don't want to. So I want to give it a different range or a different class. There is a file that we need to modify or add, which lives in etc docker. Oops, put sudo in front. The file does not exist, so we need to create it. It's not a problem. And the file name we'll need to give it is daemon.json. And in this file we need to put some configuration. I am going to copy and paste it. Okay, so that's done. We save the configuration. And we need to now apply the configuration, and to do that we need to restart Docker. Of course, typo there. Authentication complete. Easy. Let's have a look. And now, as you can see, Docker 0 is now showing with a different IP address. The last thing we want to do is test it out and run a container. So let's go ahead and do that. To run a container, we need to run a few commands. To run a container, we need to use this command. So it's sudo docker run. We're gonna give it a name web server. We're gonna test with the web server, with a switch in there. Gonna use port 8080 and forward it to 80, and we're gonna use an Nginx image. So here we go. Now if I run if config, you can see that there's a new virtual interface here, and if we want to have a look at that interface, the network interface, we can do this command. So docker network list. So if we do sudo docker network inspect and we put the name of the bridge here, we can see that this is the bridge, and then down here we can see the web server with an IP address of 10.10.0.0/16, and that is the web server that we've just created. And that's the end of my video. If you like my video, please make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Until next time, peace.